Houston, we have a problem. Immigration, assimilation, or invasion? Coming up next on Lumen Christian Ministries. But first, I invite you to like, subscribe, comment, and share the content with your family and friends. It's going to be a hot topic today. So if you got a family member that disagrees, it might be fruitful to share it with them. Not to cause family tension, but sometimes it's always good to get the other side. Also, if you want to come follow us and become a patron, you can follow us at patreon.com/c/Lumen Christi Ministries. We have exclusive content over there. Natural Apologetics series. We also have exclusive releases where I've been producing longer videos and I've been releasing them earlier. We got a release just today. Today being the day I'm recording on AI, and one on the recording on the Rosary. We got good stuff coming. All right, what's going on? Pope Leo, as most of you probably know, has spoken on the immigration issue in America, and and a lot of people disagree with what he said. And frankly, I don't know what he said. I just know he said that something about you know what, I could actually pull it up. I have a computer right here. What did pull up? What did Pope Leo say? What did Pope Leo say? I should have had that prepared for me. But what I wanted to reflect on, and I still will, um, is less on what Pope Leo said and more on the assimilation aspect of things. But let's get Pope Leo's thoughts first. Inhuman treatment of immigrants in the United States is not compatible with being pro life. Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, I remember what he said now. Compared he compared um I believe he compared immigration and the death penalty and pro life, and he put it all under one umbrella. And that was a big issue because apparently that's a liberal idea. I don't think it is. I think that's actually pretty legit. That if we're going to be pro life, we should respect life, as we say as pro lifers, from natural conception till natural death. From the moment they're conceived in the womb till the moment they die. That doesn't mean that we pull the plug. That means we wait for them to die of natural causes. That doesn't mean we give up hope. We don't do none of that. No, we we don't do the embryonic stems. No, we don't do none of that. No, and I think here with the immigration issue, what Pope Leo is calling us to do, he's calling us to be people of peace. He's calling us to be people of love. But where did that line come from? Not the line about Houston, we got a problem. Most of us know where that came from. I'm too young to know where it actually came from, but what can I say? Assimilation, invasion. Charlie Kirk, the man who was murdered for this country, who was murdered for the rights and freedoms that this country stood on, and died speaking against transgenderism specifically. But what did he die? What did he ultimately die for? Yes, that's the thing, he got shot. That's the thing he got shot for. But what did he ultimately die for? He ultimately died for exercising his First Amendment right to freedom of speech. That's ultimately what he died for. He ultimately died for the freedom of speech, for speaking his mind, for defending his right and his love for the country. I'm going to be right back. I forgot a prop. defending the right to hold the flag with the American people. There we go. We don't want to get Jesus out of the way. To hold the flag with the American people and to watch as soldiers for years died for this flag, died for this country. And he wanted to see this country be free again. He wanted to see this country be at peace again. He wanted to see this country not be invaded. But what happened instead? This country has been invaded from within, from its own people. I don't think he's wrong in that. And yet we call these people immigrants. And that's where it's difficult, because we got the Pope saying love, charity, and all these good things. I have the Catechism right here. I'm going to read it. It very much is in line with what the Pope says. It makes sense. And I'm going to do it. I got to do it. I got a whole list of videos on papal authority that you can check out on the channel. I recommend you check them out because it's important. We have holy submission of intellect and will to Pope Leo under his papal authority. Not just when he's teaching ex cathedra, that is his teaching authority, but even when he's or like when he's teaching on faith and morals, even when he's not teaching on that, we still have a holy submission of intellect and will to what he has to offer us as our Father. Just as mom and dad might not be right about every little tiny thing that they have to offer you, you still listen to their wisdom. You trust them. You trust them when you fall on the ground and scratch your knee that they're going to take care of you because they've been around longer than you. They've probably done it a million times themselves. You trust them when they take you to the doctor to get you stitches that everything's going to be okay because they've gone through it before. We have to trust that our Holy Father is spiritually guided enough and in tune with the Lord that he's right on this matter. Having grown up in Chicago too, likely having seen at least some of the problem, maybe not so much in Chicago, but certainly being a native of the United States, he certainly knows about the problem of immigration. But the problem that I started to mention and didn't fully finish was, are we calling immigration, which is supposed to be assimilation, or are we calling immigration, which is supposed to be done in assimilation, really, is that just a cover up for what is actually an invasion of our country? Which, if it was Al Qaeda, if it was ISIS, if it was the mafia, if it was some terrorist organization, if it was Russia, if it was China, it'd be a war. It'd be a all-out war. It might be World War III. The two added countries I mentioned, it might be a World War III. And yet our very own country has this problem where people are coming from who knows where, usually through Mexico, but who knows where they're coming from. And depending on what news outlet you listen to, you're going to get all this different stuff. And that's where I think the problem lies, is what news agencies are we listening to? Because cleaning up the country is the right thing to do. Justice is the right thing to do. But what Hitler did is not the right thing to do. And there are people that are going to make it look like that's exactly what Donald Trump, President Trump, is doing. They're out to make him look like he's a dictator. They're out to make it look like ICE is nothing but dictators that are just going to come in, knock on your door, say, "Do you have any immigrants in your home?" and kick your house. And it's going to be, "Do you have any Jews in your home?" It, that's the image that the media wants you to believe. Whether that's happening or not depends on who you believe. For more on that, you'd have to subscribe to my Patreon page, um, patreon.com/Living Christian Ministries, where I talk about what is truth as a part of my apologetic series. Just for $5, you can get the whole 7-week series. But that series on what is, or that week on what is truth, is a part of the 7-week series, which is why you'd have to go over there to get access to that. Um, but yeah, I just did a whole recording on what is truth, which is why I brought that up. But we have to break through the barriers of lies in order to understand the truth. We have to do the research. Okay, who's telling the truth? Um, that's not clear. I don't think. I don't think Trump is necessarily a dictator, but like I also don't think business is being done in a way that is entirely in line with Catholic teaching. Otherwise, the Pope wouldn't be speaking out against it. What does the Catholic Church say on such matters? All right, this is where our prompt is going to have to. Is that appropriate? I hope so. All right. All right. Catechism 2439, paragraph 2439 says this, and I believe this is what the Pope was indeed referencing. And for reference, the Pope was like asked on the fly during an interview. It wasn't like he was speaking dogmatically or anything. So it's not like he said definitively that this is what it is. But and again, like, are we talking about actual immigrants, or are we talking about people entering the country illegally? Which is where Charlie Kirk had that phrase that this isn't assimilation. They're not coming in here learning our language, getting our jobs, becoming like the people. They're coming in here trying to implement everything that they did in their country into our country, and they're taking our jobs, and they're not learning our language, they're not assimilating, and they're killing our people in certain cases. And it's those people that, if you follow the right media sources, that ICE is trying to kick out of here because they're terrorists, they're murderers, they're evil people. I mean, all people are good, from a certain perspective. Like, all people are made in the image and likeness of God. All people are good from that perspective. But these are people doing heinous acts. But how many of these people are out there, and how many of these people are influencing the people that keep doing these active shooter, like these school shootings and all this crazy stuff? Like, but this is the stuff that has been happening for years. Um, and I said it in the video, on what is truth. I'll say it here. Shame on our government for letting it get this far. Shame on our government for letting it get this bad. But in this case, unlike in the other case, or maybe it's in both cases, our government allows it because our government gets rich off of it, or our government is getting some benefit from it. That's why our government doesn't do anything to actually resolve the problem. Because if our government actually cared they could build a wall. They could shut the borders. They could do something. Not like Hitler, where we go door to door. Do you have any? Do you have any immigrants in your home or illegal immigrants? Because immigrants aren't bad. We don't have. This state was this country was found on immigration. This whole country was found on immigration. It's those that come here illegally that are, and I would argue too that um is it that they're coming here illegally that's the problem, or is it all these people coming here illegally that are doing these heinous acts? Because if it's because again, you still have, we'll get to it. You still have two different spectrums here. You have the person who's trying to escape his country because his country's horrible. Um, and horrible things are happening to them there. He's trying to find a better life, or the wife is trying to find somebody. The family's trying to find a better life. They know if they come to the United States, things will be better. But the system's so backed up that they can't wait, and so they're not going to wait. So what are they going to do? They're going to enter the country illegally. You have that person, but then you have this person who's just going to break into the country and then come here and then lay low and then kill whoever. And these are the people that we're trying to ultimately keep out. These are the people we want to help get in the right way, but the system's so backed up, and that's a whole nother problem in itself. And that's where my statement about if the government wanted to solve the problem, the government could like fix this problem, and then hopefully this problem would be more clear who these people are, because then these people would be coming in the right way. But because this problem here is so backed up and so bad, you have millions upon millions of people every day just sleeping in tunnels and uh, sneaking across the borders, and they're not assimilating. All you need to do is work in the cities to know that they're not learning the language, and they're not trying to be American. They are trying to keep the language that they came with, and certainly learning English is not any easier than learning any other language. But I think I think where does our duty lie as Americans in this situation? If there is an invasion, what is what should this what should the country's responsibility be? Should it be to go door to door like Hitler had his people do, to find every single illegal immigrant there is in the country and to kick them out, to send them back home, to split families up if that's necessary? Where even though kids were born here and have to deal with that whole mess, which has already happened, by the way, that's already happened. Um, Not to that degree, but like yeah. Um, do we do that? Do we do that, or do we look at the immigration laws? Do we build that wall? Do we readdress the problem in a different way? And do we charitably go about bringing light into this darkness? Because the darkness is in the human heart above all. It's the human heart that says, kick them out, get rid of them. They want to kill us, let's kill them. They came here trying to kill our people, let's kill their people. That's all the human heart. But it's love and mercy that says, um, that we offer them something else. That yes, we can and should extradite them. You don't belong here. You came here. You did not follow the law properly. You broke the law to get here. We have to send you back to where you came from. That is right and just. But how we go about that is important as well. And it's important, I think, that we learn as a nation from our mistakes so that we don't continue down this spiral of illegal immigrants taking over our country, and so that we don't continue down this spiral of a nation gone under, but indeed can be a nation united again. Because we are divided, it seems, on so many levels. Immigration is just one of them. But it seems to be a hot topic right now. So let's again turn to what does the Catechism say. 2439 says this: rich nations have a grave moral responsibility toward those which are unable to ensure the means of their development by themselves, or have been prevented from doing so by tragic historical events. It is a duty in solidarity and charity. It is also an obligation in justice. If the prosperity of the rich nations has come from resources that have not been paid for fairly. Direct aid is an appropriate response to immediate extraordinary needs caused by natural catastrophes, epidemics, and the like. This is 2440. But it does not suffice to repair the great damage resulting from destitution or to provide a lasting solution to a country's needs. It is also necessary to reform international economic and financial institutions so that they will better promote equitable relationships with less advanced countries. The efforts of poor countries working for growth and liberation must be supported. This doctrine must be applied especially in the area of agricultural labor. Peasants, especially in the third world, form the overwhelming majority of the poor. I'm going to continue reading 2441. And that quote came from CA26. I'm not sure what that references to. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. Abbreviations, there we are. Centesimus Annus. I'm guessing that's a church document. An increased sense of God and increased self awareness are fundamental to any full development of human society. This development multiplies material goods and puts them at the service of the person and his freedom. It reduces dire poverty and economic exploitation. It makes for growth in respect for cultural identities and openness to the transcendent. 2442. It is not the role of the pastors of the church to intervene directly in the political structuring and organization of social life. This task is part of the vocation of the lay faithful, acting on their own initiative with their fellow citizens. Social action can assume various concrete forms. It should always have the common good in view and be in conformity with the message of the gospel and the teaching of the church. It is the role of the laity to animate temporal realities with Christian commitment, by which they show that they are witnesses and agents of peace and justice. SRS 47 and 6. So yeah, I think with immigration, are we seeking to bring forth peace? Are we seeking to bring forth justice? And what does that peace and justice look like? Is that is that extraditing? Is that extraditing them? And is that extradition preventing this so-called invasion, or is it creating a war? Is it creating a war? Or is it going to prevent the war within from getting worse? These are questions I don't have the answer to, but they're questions we need to like prevent or present to our leaders, because particularly in our border states, because our country needs us to step up. It said it very clearly. Not the rules of the pastors of the church. It's the task of the lay faithful. It's the task of the lay faithful. You could replace that with, it's not the role of the leaders to solve all these problems. It's our jobs, one, to vote properly and accordingly for what it is we want. And that's why everybody who says that we didn't want Trump as the president, you can just point to, it was a landslide, dude. Come on. Um, I'm not trying to be political, trying to bring light into the darkness. That's what this ministry seeks to do. But you can point in that situation, just point them to the facts. It was a landslide. There is no debate here. Why are you trying to debate? You're trying to debate me because you disagree with the reality of the truth, because you don't like him. Okay, that's the reality of the truth. You don't like him. I accept that. We can move on. You don't have to continue to be mad at me. I don't have to be mad at you. Good day. That's how those conversations should go. The reality is, most people don't conversate like that, because half of the people don't want to acknowledge the reality, and the other half of the people want to engage those people in debate, and that's why we have a fiery nation. That's not how conversation and dialogue and debates work. That's not what Charlie Kirk did. Charlie Kirk had what he called "prove me wrong" debates, but he didn't have them in a hostile way. He listened to what they said. He listened to what they needed. Maybe if we listened to these immigrants coming in from these other countries, illegal or not illegal, maybe we could find we do have something to offer them. But we'd have to obviously be careful there. We'd still gotta, if these are the illegal ones, we still have to figure out how to fix this long line of people trying to get in, so that we can weed out all these other ones that shouldn't be coming in at all. Um, but it's all a process, and it could take years. It might not happen under Donald Trump's reign. It might not happen under the next president. It might not happen. It might, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't be as bad as it is. Just as there shouldn't be homeless people living on the streets, we shouldn't have a culture trapped in addiction. The way that the mental health crisis in our country is so horrible, it's ridiculous, and our mental health professionals are only making it worse. If we want to be real about it, or a lot of mental health professionals, I should say, not all of them, but a lot of them, the ones that are pushing these ideologies on these young people. Um, but yeah, we have all this going on, and everyone is lost. Everyone's confused. Everyone's everyone's just wanting to be safe again. wanting to not worry about, do I need to sleep with the gun under my head when I go to sleep at night because I'm afraid that somebody's going to break in my home. What happened to that country? What happened to the country of old? Anyways, this conversation was meant to be about assimilation, invasion, and the reality is that I think we've answered the question. We've been invaded. We've been invaded by an enemy, but the reality is the real enemy isn't the illegal immigrants. The real enemy is the devil, the principalities, and the powers. The one, the evil spirits, the demons that are going to get us down and get us all tangled up and upset about this stuff. Sure, it should upset us that these people are in our country doing horrific things and evil things. But God calls us to a higher standard, a standard that is quite difficult to live sometimes. But read one more to you. 24:43. God blesses those who come to the aid of the poor and rebukes those who turn away from them. Give, quote, give to him who begs from you. Do not refuse him who would borrow from you. End of quote. You received without pay, give without pay. It is by what they have done for the poor that Jesus Christ will recognize his chosen ones. When the poor have the good news preached to them, it is the sign of Christ's presence. That reality that God blesses us when we serve these people, whether he blesses us when we love our neighbor, whether they're poor or not. He blesses us when we do good things. That's why the Pope spoke out against how this invasion has been handled thus far. From his perspective, maybe, I mean, he speaks on the authority of the church, but I wouldn't say he speaks for God. He definitely does. Yeah. Anyway, that reality that we're not living that peace. We're not living that charity. We're not honoring true justice. It seems. Otherwise, why is the Pope speaking about it? Why is it a topic? Why is he asking the bishops to speak about it more? He's asking them to speak about it more so that there is clarity and peace on these issues, and so that these leaders don't become like Hitler, so that we don't have people knocking at our doors. But ultimately, because we are called to serve the poor, and he calls, not just Pope Leo, the Lord calls us to the poor, and he calls us to do difficult things. We are called to love our neighbor as ourselves. That includes the brother who hates us, the brother trying to kill us. And certainly we don't put our lives in danger. But the man at war still has a duty to love the enemy before him. The love just looks different. Even in the Bible, there's scriptures where God commands them to destroy their enemy, but he gives the command so that they do not become like them. Again, the assimilation that would have taken place, if you assimilate with them, you will become like them. I don't want you to become like them because they are not following me. So he gave the command to eliminate them so that they could assimilate into the land. Something like that is how those stories play out in scripture. We need to pray for our leaders and pray for our Pope and our government church leaders. But we need to pray for ourselves too, that we be protected from these evil spirits that seek to destroy our souls, that seek to get us wrapped up in these things that we don't need to get caught up in. Because ultimately the only thing that matters at the end of the day is not whether or not the flag is hanging high or not. The only thing that matters is whether we're following him. And the two can go together. But ultimately, it must always be faith before country. It must always be faith first. And so we must recognize the peace and justice. The peace and justice. That doesn't mean we throw the flag out the window. That doesn't mean we become anti country, whatever word letter you would throw on the end of it. No, we love our country. That's why we want to protect it. But we shouldn't get so caught up in love of country that we forget love of Lord. Because it's when that happens that we will lose sight of the Lord and the good that he seeks to do. We see that in Joan of Arc, at times in her journey where she received special visions that she was supposed to unite France, and she never saw it in her lifetime. But she saw like particular parts of France getting united, and if I remember correctly, that is. But but it was being done through war, and they were fighting in war for the Union of France. But she was doing it always with God in sight, while the rest of her fellow army men or soldiers were doing it with the soldier mentality. We have an enemy before us, and we're going to do what we were trained to do. We have to have faith in the Lord, and that when he calls, we will answer, and that this nation is under his protection, that he will lead us back to one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that if we have been invaded by the enemy of the earth and of the other, that he will protect us and lead us back to the cross where he is found. And he will lead us back home where liberty is found.